You're watching this video on a screen, thanks to a teenage farm boy who invented electronic television, but you've probably never heard his name. Why was the man who made television possible nearly erased from history? Who stole his spotlight? And how did it all go so wrong? This is the untold story of Philo Farnsworth, the forgotten genius behind one of the most revolutionary inventions of the 20th century. Philo Farnsworth's story begins in a log cabin in Beaver, Utah, where he was born in 1906. By the time he was a teenager living on a farm in Idaho, he was already taking apart household appliances to figure out how they worked. Unlike most kids his age, Farnsworth was obsessed with electricity. He read every technical magazine he could find and turned his family's home into a personal lab, rewiring it to use electricity from a nearby generator. But the defining moment came when he was just 14. While plowing a field in neat, straight rows, an idea struck him. What if an image could be broken down into lines, just like the ones he was making, and transmitted electronically? In that moment, the concept of electronic television was born in his head, not through corporate labs or college classrooms, but from the sheer power of imagination on a quiet Idaho farm. He started sketching his idea immediately and refined it throughout high school. Luckily, he had a supportive science teacher who recognized his talent and encouraged him to pursue the concept. That teacher would later become an essential witness in a legal battle that would define Farnsworth's future. But that part of the story comes later. By the time he turned 21, Farnsworth had moved to California and secured funding from a group of investors who believed in his vision. He set up a small lab in San Francisco and began building the first components of his electronic television system. This wasn't a simple task. Farnsworth had to invent entirely new technology, including what he called the image dissector, a device that could convert an image into a stream of electrons. In 1927, he made history. Farnsworth successfully transmitted the first ever live electronic television image, a simple straight line. It was primitive, but groundbreaking. He filed for a patent soon after, and in doing so, staked his claim as the true inventor of electronic television. But the world wasn't going to let him have it that easy. As word of his invention spread, powerful corporate players began circling. The most formidable of them all was RCA, Radio Corporation of America, led by a man named David Sarnoff, who had already turned radio into a nationwide phenomenon. RCA didn't just want a piece of Farnsworth's invention, they wanted all of it. Sarnoff, often described as the father of American broadcasting, sent his top engineer Vladimir Zworykin to visit Farnsworth's lab. Ostensibly there for a demonstration, Zworykin studied Farnsworth's image dissector closely, then went back to RCA and built a remarkably similar device. RCA promptly filed its own patent and claimed they had independently developed the technology. What followed was a brutal legal war. Farnsworth, a young inventor with limited resources, was up against a corporate behemoth. RCA tried to bury him in court, confident they could outlast him. But Farnsworth had a secret weapon: his high school teacher. That same science mentor who had encouraged him years earlier still had the original drawings and notes Farnsworth made at 14. In 1934, the U.S. Patent Office ruled in Farnsworth's favor. It was a rare David versus Goliath victory. Farnsworth had legally proven he was the inventor of electronic television. But even with that win, RCA's grip on the media industry ensured Farnsworth remained in the shadows, while the company dominated the commercialization of his invention. Despite the legal battles, Farnsworth didn't stop inventing. He held over 300 patents in his lifetime, many of them groundbreaking. He contributed to the development of radar during World War II and pioneered advances in electron microscopy. But perhaps his most ambitious post-TV project was nuclear fusion. In the 1960s, Farnsworth turned his attention to solving the world's energy crisis. He developed a device known as the Farnsworth-Hersh fusor, a compact nuclear fusion reactor. Though it never reached commercial viability, modern scientists still use its principles in research today. His mind never rested. Farnsworth was constantly chasing the next idea, the next breakthrough. Yet even as he continued to innovate, He watched as others took credit for the foundation he had laid. His television invention was everywhere, but his name was nowhere. Years of stress and financial strain began to take their toll. Farnsworth's company struggled to stay afloat, and repeated legal wrangling drained both his energy and finances. His relationship with the very industry he helped create grew increasingly strained. He started to question whether his invention had done more harm than good. In 1957, Farnsworth appeared on the quiz show I've Got a Secret, where panelists tried to guess that he had invented electronic television. The irony was painful. His life-changing invention had become a game show gimmick. He smiled, but the moment was bittersweet. Farnsworth spent his later years in relative obscurity. He was eventually inducted into the Television Hall of Fame and received some belated accolades, but the recognition came too late to change the course of his life. He died in 1971, his legacy still hidden behind the shadows of corporate giants. Decades after his death, Philo Farnsworth's name is finally beginning to get the recognition it deserves. Tech historians and industry experts now credit him as one of the true fathers of modern media. Without his vision, the screens that dominate our lives, TVs, smartphones, monitors, might never have existed in their current form. His story has inspired documentaries, books, and even references in pop culture. In 2006, Time magazine named him one of the 100 most important people of the 20th century. His fusor device is still a subject of fascination in physics communities, and his patents continue to influence tech development. What's most striking about Farnsworth's journey is that he didn't invent television in a lab full of experts. He did it with a pencil, a plow, and a dream. Proof that genius can come from anywhere. And though history tried to erase him, his ideas proved too powerful to disappear. Philo Farnsworth changed the world, yet he died with most people unaware of his name. His life was a battle between vision and power, invention and recognition. He dreamed up one of the most transformative technologies of all time. And for years, that legacy was buried under corporate ambition. But now, we know. And maybe, just maybe, his story reminds us to look deeper, to ask who really builds the future we live in today. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe.